Welcome back to the homestead. It's a nice rainy Saturday afternoon. We're back from our trip. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the transfer case back in, see if we can get the shifting linkage hooked up and the dry shafts back in. And then maybe if we get really bored this afternoon, we're going to put some new springs in the truck. So remember the gasket we were talking about? I'm going to figure out where it goes because it has to be indexed. And I'm going to see if I can silicone it on here. I believe that's it right there. So that little tab goes up. That's the key to remember, I guess. And I'm going to put just a hint of silicone around this on both sides. Let's see, I actually got to go out there. Probably don't need the silicone with this gasket, but I don't really want to have to come back and deal with this because it's leaking. And what's in here is gear oil. So you saw we put the input seal on the transfer case, and that keeps all the transmission fluid, automatic transmission fluid, inside the transfer case. But the transmission, being a standard transmission, its gear oil actually can get out into this adapter housing. So we need to make sure that we seal this. And we also need to make sure that we put just the slightest hint of silicone on the bolts, because they do go into the wet area of the transfer case, as I mentioned earlier, with the other bolts. Now let's see if I remembered how to index it. Looks like I might have. And I'm going to just put a little bit on the other side of the gasket. So now what I have to do is I have to lift that up and put it on that shaft. Key is not to grab a hold of parts that spin. And there we go. So it'll hang there now, and we can go ahead and get a bolt. And obviously that's not how it goes. It needs to spin up like that. We get our bolt. Lined up of where we're going. That's right. I feel like I'm on bolt 2 low, but I'm not. Get another bolt started. I know it's pretty dark up in here for you guys. So we'll bring her in and show you. There's one right on the very top. It's not hard to get to. You can just only get about 3 clicks on the ratchet. Patience is key. Somebody has way too much money. That's a lot of target practicing for the price of ammo today.
A lot of target practice for how big whatever that is too, because that's our neighbor that's probably at least a quarter mile away. Click of the wrench. I think we got that one already. We'll double check. We did. We got the light. I'm going to show you a couple of things we have to do now. See if you can get in there and see it with us. On the very top of the transfer case, you probably have to come around here. Right up in here, where my finger is a plug. So we have to take this wire and try to get it up there without getting in you guys' way so you can see. See, there's tons of room where the camera is, but I'm trying to do this so you can see what I'm doing. So now if I get up in here from behind, I can plug that in. And that's our 4-wheel drive indicator. And then right up in here, this is our shifting lever. And this is our shifting linkage. And you see, it looks pretty close. So we're going to go ahead and, we're not going to put the pin in that yet. We'll come back to that later when we can put Sue up in the truck and we can be down here. So we're going to come around here. We're going to hook up our speedometer cable. It doesn't whack us in the face. And that goes right up in there like that. Switch it off and tighten that up. It doesn't have to be very tight, but I like to get it just a little bit more than finger tight. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the rear drive shaft in. So we're going to move this light out of you guys' way. So you can watch what we're doing. I'll hang this back here. What we're going to do is when we get close to ready, we're going to have our camera lady dribble a little bit of this on the shaft right here. So when we put it through the seal, we're not foam dry. Because remember, that's a brand new seal right out at the end. Yep, that'll work. That will just help it not tear the seal or do anything weird. And we did check these joints before we pick this up to put it back in. And this can go just any way once you line up the splines. There's no indexing to it. There we go. And we get our caps. And our wrench. The bolts are a little too long to get in there with the drive shaft all the way back in. So you have to start them like that. I'm gonna set our rig somewhere. So get our drive shaft out a little bit. Now we put our drive shaft back in. And we're going to leave the front drive shaft out for now because we're going to be cutting the front end out of this here to do the springs. And it's just one less thing in our way. We'll put it in after we're all done. So we're going to tighten this up and then we're going to fill the transfer case before we forget it. It's very easy to get sidetracked, especially on a project like this, and forget. I have a few tricks I use, like when I get the oil out of the engine, I'll put a funnel in the valve cover so that it's very obvious to me I got to do something. Or like in the case of the transfer case, if I don't get right to it, I take the drain plugs out, put them somewhere really obvious to myself. But I find that the best answer is just to do it as soon as you possibly can, and then you don't forget it. Because you'll hate yourself if you forget to put fluid in that and head on down the road. It's kind of exciting. We might be able to, next weekend, build a body for this. Get it all welded up, and then Sue's got to paint it pink. And we got to see if we can afford to buy the 2x4s, so 2x6s to put on the floor. Building material is crazy right now.
Some stuff seems to be staying pretty stable and some stuff is going right through the roof, so I'm not sure what to tell you, but if there's something you need and you can find it right now and you can afford it, you probably better buy it. Then you gotta keep the drive shaft from turning because the transmission's in neutral. And these don't have to be like break the bolt off tight. Alright, let's find an adjustable wrench. There. Get the light set back up so you can watch what we're doing real good. Oh yeah, that's gonna look well. So we have to tighten our drain plug back up because we obviously don't want the oil running out. Loosen our fill plug. I could go get a socket, but I'm kind of lazy. So you use basically just automatic transmission fluid in this. Doesn't really matter what brand or what type because it's not an actual transmission, so there's no clutches in this one. And if you're at your auto parts store, you can find these tips that screw onto an oil jug. They usually come with like the gear oil bottles, but they work really well for this. So we're just going to fill this until it runs back out that hole. And you want to make sure that what's running out is not something you just spilled. You want to make sure it's actually full of that. I suspect it's probably going to take about 3 quarts. My memory doesn't jog on that. I can't quite remember. It's almost 4. If my memory was off a couple quarts. Getting not quite the whole quart just because I can't tip the bottle up. So out of those 4 quarts I have a half a quart left here that we're going to put in there before we go get another one. And then we're going to get another one.
I don't know if you need another one. It's dripping for quite a while. I think it might be pretty close.
That's an indication of full. Now we'll just put our drain plug back in.
And that about does it for the battery on the camera.
And that just about does it for the video too. So we're going to go ahead and tighten our drain plug up. We're going to hook our emergency cable back up, and then we're going to get on to springs. So we'll bring you back for that video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.